Breaking news for BMNR shareholders as Ethereum continues to shake out the sort of concerns between Chinese trade policy and Trump's retaliation. We'll talk about that in a second. But the breaking news is that Tom Lee, probably unsurprisingly, is buying the dip. However, this time it's verified. At 10 a.m. on October 11th, BMNR, one of their verified wallets, ended up purchasing 27,256 Ethereum at an average price of $3,845 or $104 million for the total buy. Well, if that was enough, that would have been great. But just as I was about to record this, what we ended up seeing at 9:12, Look On Chain reported once again that the buys for BMNR have now stacked up to $480 million or 128.7 thousand Ethereum. They have found 6 new addresses that seem to be associated with BMNR's other addresses, whether they're sending money to each other or what have you, but they seem to think that these are associated with BMNR. Now, I don't profess to be an on-chain expert at all, and I don't have the tools to tell whether an address is verified or not, but Look On Chain is. This is a company that's been doing this forever now and has built up quite a lot of trust for their ability to spot and verify wallets. So I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that they have assumed that these are BMNR wallets through their own research. But if you want to follow them to get better reasoning, you can go ahead and do that. Because of these tariffs that we ended up saying Trump is imposing, the entire markets are selling off, including crypto with Ethereum and Bitcoin. Now, I'm not suggesting, by the way, that the tariffs have any sort of negative impact on Ethereum, but the markets like to sell off high beta names and speculative plays. And we actually saw the highest amount of liquidations in crypto that we've seen in a 24-hour period that was bigger than the Terra Luna sell-off, COVID, and FTX at $9.4 billion in a 24-hour period. But the sell-off of Ethereum only matters if you're looking to sell soon. BMNR is a net buyer of Ethereum. They're not selling ETH, right? So as they continue to acquire more and more Ethereum and looking to get to that alchemy of 5%, holding 5% of Ethereum, which they've done successfully more than any other digital asset treasury, as of the last reported amount of ETH that they hold, which was on October 6th, they had 2.83 million ETH, or 2.3% of the total outstanding Ethereum. It took them 89 days to acquire that. That's also due to how cheap Ethereum was. If they want to actually get to that 6 million ETH or 5%, what BMNR needs is ETH actually to go down. See, if we just take how much cash that they have on their balance sheet, which we already know because they just purchased $480 million worth of Ethereum, that they have raised a lot of money during this week, okay? Because clearly they have just spent more than what they have on cash. And I'm going to assume that the buying is not done, and we'll talk about why I think that in a second. But if they were to have purchased at this week's high of Ethereum, 4,753, they could have only gotten roughly about 96,000 Ethereum. But at the price that we're holding right now, it's roughly about 122,500 Ethereum, getting them closer to their total amount of the outstanding ETH supply. Now, I'm not suggesting that, the sell-off for BMNR doesn't hurt. It obviously does hurt the actual market value of the business if Ethereum continues to fall down. But if we are long-term investors, which that's what I like to promote, I'm okay with buying companies that have long-term trajectories, maybe even in speculative areas, but the long-term focus of the business has to be true. And for BMNR, I think that's absolutely the case. And although this sell-off brings them down nearly $3 billion of market value, it doesn't really change the thesis at all. BMNR has no debt. They have no cost to hold. Wallets for them to set up multiples over and over and over cost them absolutely nothing. BMNR wants to potentially hold as much Ethereum as possible. This sell-off only goes to benefit them in the long run if they can buy more ETH today, assuming that you believe Ethereum will be higher over the next little bit. And now, to be honest, Tom Lee very much believes this. He said, based on Mark Newton's comments, that Ethereum will likely bottom over the next 1 to 2 days and then rally to 5,500. That's their belief, which they expect that the sell-off will likely be done on October 11th and then turn back higher. So they want to buy a lot during these periods. That's why we're seeing these updates from Look On Chain. However, to be very honest, they suspected that the bottom was going to be around 42 to 42.20. I don't think they suspected what was a black swan event from Trump that actually made this sell-off be so much worse than it originally was going to be. But now I believe Tom Lee is raising money and going to continuously buy this dip through Sunday and Monday because of comments that he made between Trump's first tweet and the second tweet. So he hadn't seen the 100% tariff part, but he did see the initial comment that started the reaction. Okay, let's have a listen.
Do you want to see the market not end on its lows? We're not on our lows right now.
Well, it's Friday, and it's a long weekend. So as you know, a lot of people like to shut down their computers. So I wouldn't be surprised if we might see the market close on its lows. But to me, I don't think it's a signal. As you know, markets rarely bottom on Fridays anyway. So maybe Monday is the flush, but then, that's the buying opportunity.
It could end up bottoming on Monday, and that might be the buying opportunity. Is China tariffs going to slow down the build out of on-chain finance? Because that's the idea that Tom Lee believes we get to 60,000 ETH. You have to believe that if you're going to be bullish on BMNR. If you're not believing that more of finance, more of stable coins, real world assets is going to be built on chain, then you have no business betting on BMNR in the first place. These sort of political pawn movements and threats across countries does not change what the financials are going to do. They're going to want to increase settlement times. They're going to want to increase the security of their businesses, lower costs. All of these things still have to happen by going on chain. Robinhood just said, hey, we're going live starting now with 400 stock tokens listed in US stocks and ETFs. Get it in the EU on Ethereum. Abu Dhabi Airports now partners with businesses to help with crypto payment solutions. More utility for crypto. Morgan Stanley says starting on October 18th, financial advisors in our firm can offer crypto assets to all clients and allow such investments in any type of account, including retirement accounts, CNBC just learned. Not just with people that have aggressive risk tolerance and at least $1.5 million in assets. That opens them up to $2 trillion worth of all the AUM that they manage. These are huge changes. By the way, other digital asset treasuries continue to pile in to Ethereum. And unlike other businesses where one company wins a customer over, that cannot be won by another business. No, in digital asset treasuries, if one accumulates, it's beneficial across the board because it locks down that Ethereum and helps with the supply. So overall, I'm super bullish on BMNR right now. This shakeout does not scare me at all. I'm very long-term focused on this name. Maybe the stock price might end up going down, but just like what Tom Lee is doing, buying the dip, I am buying BMNR to take advantage of the market's weak hands selling off a stock that I want to hold long-term. But let me know what you guys are doing down in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching. Really do appreciate your time, but bye for now.